Well, of course, many people around the world are watching what is happening very closely, among them Afghan-Canadians. Madina Azizi is watching from Victoria. In fact, she participated in the Stop Killing Afghans protest yesterday. She joins us right now. Madina, thank you for being with us. I appreciate that these last few days must be very difficult for you to watch what is happening in Afghanistan as you still have family and friends there. What has it been like for you to see these new reports and now the ongoing violence in and around Kabul where people are still lining up trying to get out of the country?
Michael, it's been absolutely devastating for us. Afghans living in diaspora, we feel extremely helpless. We feel betrayed by the US government. We feel a whole host of emotions. We are grieving with each other every time that we meet with our relatives. We grieve, we cry, we talk about Afghanistan because all of my relatives have lived through the Taliban. They have experienced atrocities committed by the Taliban. And for them, for my parents, it's trauma. It's PTSD when we talk about them. It's PTSD when they see it happen all over again to our people. So it's absolutely devastating. And what's even more devastating is that we feel very helpless from here. I wish we could do a lot of things for our people back home, but it's essentially the feeling of betrayal by the US government and also the feeling of helplessness during this very, very tough times.
I'm wondering if it's also triggering, because you and your family fled Afghanistan in the 90s during the Taliban's first regime. What you say it is troubling for your family, but is it triggering? Does it bring back the kind of trauma that you had to undergo through?
For sure, 1,000% for my parents. We have tried for my parents to stay away from what's happening there, to look into it too much, because for them, my mom just she gets very anxious and she just starts to cry, and she talks uncontrollably about her experiences back then, because at that time my dad was in the army and my mom was alone, and I feel it's important that I share my personal story so that Canadians can understand, what some of these refugees are going through.
By all means.
I was 6 years old when we crossed Afghanistan to Pakistan. My mom had 4 young children all by herself. And we literally walked from Afghanistan to Pakistan as refugees. And during that whole time, of course, I was young. I don't remember much of it, but I remember being in constant fear. So I cannot imagine my mom with 4 young children, the youngest being 30 days old, crossing the border while the Taliban were after us. I can't imagine the feeling that she would be feeling. So, of course, it's definitely triggering for my mom. It's definitely triggering for all of my community members that have gone through this, which are all my uncles, my aunts, my cousins who were super young under the regime. And they just come together and they can't talk about anything else other than what's going on in Afghanistan and how helpless they're feeling, and the fact that they got away and, many, many more have not been able to. So definitely it's triggering.
I see that right now, even as you speak about it, you're trying to hold back tears. What are you feeling? Why are you right now? I appreciate how difficult this is, but why are you getting emotional right now?
I'm getting emotional because that's my country, that's my nation. I have relatives there, and even if I did not have relatives there, that's part of my identity. I self-recognize myself as Afghan-Canadian. And so to see your country being torn apart for the last 40 years, my people have not seen freedom for the last 40 years. And so it's, I don't know, the feeling of, will I ever get to see my country be in a free place? Will my children be able to visit my country? Will I be able to go back to my roots? Will I be able to continue having my identity as an Afghan? These are all the different feelings that we're feeling right now. When somebody asks me, where are your ancestors from? So will I still be able to say they're from Afghanistan? Will that still be something that will be left on the world map? And we're feeling very angry, Michael. We're feeling very angry because this is not something that the Afghan people have done themselves. This is something that the foreign interventions have done. This is what the US have created. And for them to leave us in the middle of the night with all of their weaponaries available for the Taliban to come and use, It's betrayal, and we're feeling very angry, but feeling very betrayed by the foreign country, by the U.S. and what they have done to us. So I am holding back a lot of emotions, a lot of anger, because nobody likes to see their own country being torn down to what it is right now.
It's been said before and it's been shared by others, but I want to get your sense of it. What is the fear now that the Taliban have taken over the country once again, now that the Americans are 2 days away from their promised withdrawal date to the Taliban? What is the fear for your family, your friends who are left on the ground?
The fear is no future. The fear is living under a extremist regime. I don't even want to call them Islamic extremist regime, because they do not represent Islam. They're just an extremist regime. There's no future. There's no freedom. There's no rights. You're essentially living like a caged animal. That's the fear. Every single human being should have the right to live, to freedom, to liberty. And our people will not have that. That's the fear. When I asked my mom, there were reports going on about the Taliban changing their ways with the people, being the government of Afghanistan and how they're going to rule, they're going to allow certain things. And I have to tell you, Michael, my mom was pretty devastated to hear that, some people might actually believe the fact that Taliban might change. You have to ask the people who have gone through their experiences under the Taliban regime. You have to ask them what kind of experiences they have had, the atrocities they have had to travel through, to ask them if they believe the Talibans have changed. They have not. They are the same exact animals that they were 20 years ago. They're the same exact animals right now. And who are suffering? Let me tell you, it's the minorities who are suffering, the Hazara people who are suffering. It's the women that are suffering. And I really want to highlight this, Michael, that although the whole population of Afghanistan is suffering right now, but we really have to particularly pay attention to the Hazara community, to the non-Muslim community, to the women in that country, because they're particularly in danger under the Taliban regime. I'm hearing reports from our relatives that the Taliban have already gone from home to home, taking down all the names of the people who have worked with the government, who have worked with the U.S. Embassy, who have worked with the Canadian government as translators, as whatever. They've already taken the names down. And as soon as we have the U.S. out, completely, that's when the Taliban are going to show their true colors, right? Our whole concentration right now is in Kabul. I understand that, but we need more coverage of rural areas in Afghanistan to see exactly what's going on all around it. Kabul is very concentrated, but we need more reports of rural areas. What are the Taliban up to there? They're going to show us the facade in front of everybody, because the whole media is concentrated in Kabul. But we need to expand our coverage.
Well, we have, to that point, have been hearing stories of revenge killings of young girls under the age of 18 being taken away from families to be married off to Talib. As you know, the deadline is 2 days away now. The Canadian air bridge, the evacuation of Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and Afghan nationals that helped Canada's mission in the country, that has now ended. So what can the Canadian government do going forward? What do you hope Canada and its allies do in the days, months ahead?
I'm in complete disbelief that we have ended our evacuation process in Afghanistan. I cannot come in terms of how that has happened. I understand there are people's lives in danger, but the U.S., Canada, we're a Western country. We're very far with our technology. It's just complete disbelief that we have completely neglected the Afghan community. Those people who have helped those people that have helped the foreign countries. So for me, for the Canadian government, first of all, I would really, really ask the Canadian government to please understand the atrocities that the Afghani community are going through in Afghanistan, to please continue to evacuate more people, to come and form a plan, form the logistics of how you're going to safely do that on the ground. And second of all, for the Canadian government to condemn the things that the U.S. has done to the Afghan, to my country, for them to leave in the middle of the night. Please, Canada, you need to condemn the U.S. You need to let them know that what they have done is absolutely wrong. And this devastating situation that they have created right now is a direct result of that. This could have been all avoided. So I want the Canadian government to condemn the US government for what it has done. And third of all, I want the Canadian people to please use your rights, your privilege that we all have in Canada, to demand help from the Canadian government for the Afghani people. I mean, we see children that haven't seen their parents for so many days. How can we let that happen and watch from afar? Call upon your MPs. Please go to protests. Please check in with your Afghani counterparts. Please use your rights and your privilege to do whatever you can to help my community.
Madina Azizi, thank you.
Thank you.